unfinished business. When you look at Trish versus Becky in a cage, this wasn't just about settling a score, it was about respect, legacy, and control over the spotlight. The whole thing kicked off when Trish Stratus made her return in early 2023. At first, it looked like a dream scenario. Trish teaming with Becky Lynch and Lita. You had generations colliding in a positive way. But underneath that, there was tension brewing. Trish didn't come back to stand beside Becky. She came back to prove she was still better than her. After they lost the women's tag team titles, Trish snapped. She turned on Becky in a brutal post-match attack, and that's where the real story began. Trish started claiming that Becky Lynch had been holding her down, disrespecting everything she built during the Divas era. In her mind, Becky and the entire modern women's division owed her, but Becky wasn't having any of that. Becky Lynch represents the evolution of women's wrestling, the main event era, the spotlight Trish helped create but never fully got to experience. So this feud quickly spotlight Trish helped create. Things escalated fast. Trish didn't want to beat Becky, she wanted to embarrass her. That's where Zoe Stark came in. Acting as Trish's enforcer, Zoe constantly interfered in matches, costing Becky opportunities and stacking the odds against her. So every time Becky tried to get her hands on Trish, there was always an escape, always an excuse. And that's exactly why the steel cage became necessary. The cage wasn't just a gimmick, it was a solution. No interference, no running, no hiding behind Zoe Stark. Just Trish versus Becky, one-on-one with nowhere to go. It was the only way to force a definitive ending. By the time this match was made, it wasn't just about revenge anymore. Becky wanted to shut Trish up and prove that her era wasn't just better, it surpassed what came before. And Trish? She wanted to remind everyone that none of this exists without her. 2 generations, 1 locked cage, no escape from the truth. The whole thing really begins with what should have been a feel-good moment. You've got Becky Lynch teaming with Hall of Famer Trish Stratus and Lita. A bridge between generations. On the surface, it's respect, it's legacy, it's everything WWE wants you to celebrate. But the second those women's tag team titles are gone, that illusion shatters. Trish doesn't just get frustrated, she reveals herself. The attack on Becky isn't heat of the moment, it's calculated. It's almost like Trish had been waiting for the perfect excuse to snap, and once she does, everything she says afterwards reframes the entire partnership. She claims Becky was the problem, that she carried the team, that this new generation has forgotten who paved the way. And for a week, Becky isn't even there. That's important. The silence lets Trish's words breathe. It lets the audience sit with the idea that maybe, in Trish's mind, she's not the villain. She's the underrated architect of everything Becky represents. When Becky finally comes back, she doesn't play it light. There's no comedy, no catchphrases for the sake of it. She's intense, direct, and honestly, a little insulted. Because to her, this isn't just about getting attacked. It's about Trish trying to rewrite history. Becky stands there as the face of the modern era and basically says, if you've got something to prove, prove it against me. So the match gets set. It feels big. It feels like the kind of generational clash you don't get often. But then, it doesn't go the way it should. When they finally meet, it's not clean. Zoe Stark shows up and changes everything. That moment is huge because it shifts the entire feud. It's not just legend versus modern star, it's strategy versus frustration. Trish suddenly has a shield, and she uses it every chance she gets. From that point on, the story becomes about denial. Becky keeps trying to get her hands on Trish, and every single time there's an escape hatch, a distraction, an interference, a numbers advantage. And the more it happens, the more it eats at Becky, because she knows she's not being beaten, she's being outmaneuvered. They clash again and again, and it's chaos. Becky gets close, but close doesn't matter in wrestling. Results do. And Trish keeps walking away with the result, while Becky keeps walking away angrier. And that anger starts to change Becky's tone. She stops asking for matches and starts demanding finality. Her promos get sharper, more personal. She calls Trish out for hiding behind Zoe, for ducking a real fight, for being more concerned with controlling the narrative than proving she's better. At this point, Becky isn't just fighting Trish, she's fighting the excuses. That's when the idea of the cage really starts to make sense, because that's one thing Becky hasn't had this entire feud, a fair shot. So when the steel cage match is finally made official for Payback, it feels earned. It doesn't feel like a gimmick. It feels like the only possible solution. No Zoe Stark interference, no running, no shortcuts. Just Becky and Trish locked in where no one else can go. And that's the beauty of the build. Week after week, it wasn't about piling on random moments. It was about building frustration, building ego, building this sense that the only way to end it was to physically remove every escape route Trish had been using. By the time they step inside the cage, it's not just a match anymore. It's a confrontation that's been denied over and over again, finally happening with nowhere left to run. Alright, this is where the story gets really interesting, because by the time they walk into that cage, this isn't just physical anymore. It's psychological. Both women are coming in with completely different mindsets, and that's what makes this match feel so big. When you look at Becky Lynch heading into the cage, she's running on something deeper than just anger. She's running on frustration that's been building for months. Every step of this feud, she's been denied a real fight. Every time she got close, there was an excuse, an interference, or a shortcut, usually involving Zoe Stark. So mentally, Becky walks into this match feeling like she's been cheated out of closure over and over again. And that does something to a competitor. Becky's mindset is laser focused, but it's also dangerous. She's not just trying to win, she's trying to end this. There's a sense of urgency, like she needs to prove, once and for all, that she is better than Trish Stratus, that her era is legitimate, and that everything Trish has been saying is wrong. But here's the risk. When you're that emotionally invested, you can get reckless. Becky's confidence is still there. She truly believes that in a fair fight, she beats Trish. But there's also impatience now. She doesn't want to outsmart Trish. She wants to hurt her, shut her up, and move on. That kind of mindset can push you to greatness or cause you to make a mistake. Now, on the other side, Trish Stratus is coming up with a completely different energy. Trish isn't frustrated. She's calculated. The entire feud, she's controlled the narrative. She turned when she wanted to. She introduced Zoe Stark when she needed the advantage. And she has been able to stay one step ahead of Becky Lynch the entire time. So mentally, Trish walks into the cage believing she's already proven her point. In her mind, she's beaten Becky, maybe not clean, but she's won when it counted. And more importantly, she's gotten under Becky's skin. She's taken someone who thrives on confidence and turned her into someone emotional, reactive, and desperate for payback. But here's the twist. The cage changes everything for Trish. For the first time in this feud, she can't rely on outside help. She can't escape. She can't manipulate the situation the same way. So while she's still confident, maybe even arrogant, there's also pressure there. Because if she loses here, she loses everything she has been arguing. She's been saying she's still better, still smarter, still the standard, but inside that cage, she has to prove it on her own. No excuses, no backup. So mentally, Trish is trying to stand composed, trying to slow things down, trying to turn this match into something she can control. But deep down, she knows this is the most dangerous version of Becky she has faced. You've got Becky Lynch, fueled by frustration and the need for closure. And you've got Trish Stratus, fueled by ego and the need to validate her legacy. One is fighting to end the story, the other is fighting to control how the story is remembered. And the cage, that's the truth detector. After returning in 2023, Trish aligned herself with Becky Lynch and Lita. Together, they won the tag team titles, but things shifted quickly. Lita was attacked backstage, removing her from Raw. This kicked off the feud that led heavily into being a trailblazer of the women's division, claiming Becky had only success because of pioneers like her. That's what brings us up to where we are now. Becky came in aggressive, immediately using the cage as a weapon. Trish played the veteran heel, slowing things down, targeting Becky's arm and face. This wasn't about escaping, it was about punishment. Right away, this felt more like a typical fight than a WWE cage match. Trish showed respect, subtle but important. It felt like the passing of a torch, acknowledgement, even without a full babyface turn, was actually pretty significant because it wrapped up multiple storylines at once. The promos between Trish and Becky weren't just hype, they were layered with ego, legacy, and a very personal sense of betrayal. Trish leaned hard into her role as the legend who felt disrespected. Her promos had this cutting, almost smug tone. She framed everything as Becky being ungrateful and delusional. Trish positioned herself as the trailblazer who made Becky's career possible, constantly reminding the audience that without her generation, there is no man. She didn't just insult Becky, she diminished her, calling her a fan who got lucky, which is a brutal line when you're talking about someone who built their whole identity on earning respect the hard way. Trish's delivery was calm but condescending, like she truly believed she was above Becky, which made the heat feel real. Becky, on the other hand, came in fiery and direct. No surprise there, but what made her promos stand out was how personal they got. She didn't deny Trish's legacy, but she refused to live under it. Becky flipped Trish's argument on its head, basically saying, "You opened the door, but I kicked off the hinges." Her tone was intense, almost impatient, like she was tired of hearing about the past and ready to prove the present belongs to her. She also leaned into the betrayal angle. Trish turning on her after WrestleMania wasn't just business, it was disrespect, and Becky sold that with real anger and emotion. But what made their promo exchange work so well is that both sides had truth. Trish did help build the division. Becky did take it to another level. So every line felt like a clash of errors rather than a simple heel versus babyface script. By the time they got into the cage, the promos had done their job. This wasn't just about winning a match anymore, it was about shutting the other person up. The cage becomes symbolic. No interference, no excuses, just one era trying to prove it still mattered, and anything trying to prove it had already surpassed it. Now, if you're watching this match on Netflix, we start at 9 minutes and 49 seconds. YouTube, it's about 5-second ins. So now let's get into it. The bell's about to ring. Becky starts things off against Trish Stratus here in the cage. Again, pinfall, submission, or over the cage, or through the door. Both feet must touch the floor. For Trish Stratus, a 7-time world champion, but she has never been locked inside the confines of a steel cage. Is that good or bad for Trish Stratus? It could go either way. Trish won't have cage experience, and she looks to make quick escapes to rely on. However, Trish may not feel the trepidation most would feel in their very first cage match because she doesn't know what to expect. Becky went for a manhandle slam. Trish counted, and now trying to escape over the top. It doesn't seem like Trish Stratus wants to spend much time in this cage with Becky Lynch tonight. On the other side of the coin, I believe wholeheartedly that Becky Lynch has no intention of escaping the cage. Becky wants to settle a score tonight in Pittsburgh. Trish bounced off the turnbuckle. This dates back months when Becky Lynch and Lita, a Hall of Famer of course, whose paths have crisscrossed with Trish Stratus throughout her career, won the tag team titles. Lita was injured, so Trish replaced Lita with Becky and ended up turning her back on Becky Lynch. The fire just oozing out of the man right now. That Exploder by Becky Lynch, who is fired up tonight. Another one delivered to Trish Stratus. Lynch just laying waste to the Hall of Famer. A third Bexplex. Becky told me earlier today that she meant a lot. It meant a lot to be in Pittsburgh because this is where her career started. Right now, Lynch avoiding interacting with the steel cage, and history has taught us this cage will tear your flesh. It can snap your bones, and it can shatter your dreams in the blink of an eye. Now, Trish Stratus taking over this matchup. Thanks to Zoe Stark, Trish's protege, she knocked off Becky Lynch at Night of Champions back in May. As Trish looks to escape yet again up to the second rope, Becky Lynch is going to meet her there, holding her, dragging her down. What a performance this Monday night they had on Raw as Becky got ready for this match. She knocked off Zoe Stark in a Falls Count Anywhere match on Raw. Absolutely main event caliber match. Becky looks to parlay that momentum here tonight. But Trish Stratus has other plans. Now Trish Stratus basking in the glow of her self-satisfaction as she continues to hammer away on Lynch. As we look again at Bench being driven face first into the steel, Becky Lynch has said that Trish Stratus is upset, paranoid, and scared because, quote, time is passing her by. Trish Stratus, more importantly, does not believe that's the case. Look at how dominant Stratus is being at this moment. That's, again, why Trish returned to the WWE to begin with. To prove to a whole new generation that she is still who she says she is. Getting a close-up there of Becky's face being driven into the cage. It was Becky Lynch's generation that really broke down the barriers. Had the opportunities, as we just saw, they headlined WrestleMania. Those opportunities were never afforded to Trish Stratus or Lita. So she's back. Trish planting Becky Lynch into the cover. 1, 2, hooks the leg. Kick out at 2. Now, to Trish Stratus's point, she is a trailblazer. She's looking to escape yet again through that door, but Becky's going to roll Trish up, shoulders down. 1, 2, kick out at 2. Trish Stratus, along with Lita, the first 2 women to ever main event Monday Night Raw, have paved the way. Here's the cover again by Trish. Hook of the leg and a kick out. If you look back to this business and where we were 20 years ago, that was unbelievable accomplishment. To try to get through your head that Trish and Lita were actually main eventing the flagship show of WWE seemed unheard of for the time. Again, when we say trailblazer, we mean it in the most literal sense when you're talking about Trish Stratus. She paved the way for so many women today. This is the viciousness inside of Trish Stratus. Look at that double fish hook into the mouth, punishing Becky Lynch. Oh, how Trish Stratus will brag about this if she knocks off Becky in the first steel cage match tonight. Again, using that cage as a weapon, grinding her face into it. The way Trish Stratus carries herself, you don't have to preach how good you are. And this is what you meant to the business. You were there for it. You built it. You've called all the shots. Becky Lynch, though, is the man. Face first, she goes into the mat. Now Trish has Becky where she wants her. This is what Becky had to avoid. allowing Trish to gain her confidence inside the cage. There was a bit of uncertainty surrounding Trish's performance tonight, but Trish looks comfortable. You saw the trepidation a couple of weeks ago when it was announced that Trish was going to be a part of this steel cage match tonight, because the various interferences from Zoe Stark and Trish have always been to her advantage. Forcing the hand of WWE officials, they've made this match inside a steel cage. We know Trish is not afraid to get physical. We saw the brutality delivered by Trish previously. Now Becky tripped up on her shoulders, head first into the steel cage. Becky has a mean streak of her own. Again, into the steel cage. We're going side to side, hitting all corners. Here comes the man. Becky not done. Down goes Stratus. Cover now for the win. In the cage. Kick out by Stratus. Lynch now locking for the disarm her. Trying to get Trish Stratus to tap out. Remember, submission will win you a match inside the steel cage. Trish now driving her shoulder into the hip of Becky, trying to prevent Lynch from fully extending the arm. Doing a nice job of it, too. And she's dragging Becky now toward the ropes, towards the door. Now, a rope will not cause a break inside a steel cage. Around we go, face first, into the cage. Crowd going wild for this. Again, driving Becky to the other side of the ring. Stratus with a matrix, but this time it was Becky there to counter. Becky studied Trish, knows her well. Now both women down in the middle of the ring. Take another look at that incredible athleticism of Trish Stratus, but great wherewithal from Lynch putting on the brakes. Incredible crowd here tonight, this Labor Day weekend in the Steel City, out in force. Over 14,000 in this stands tonight. Sold out at the PPG Paints Arena, home of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We kick things off with a steel cage match tonight between Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. Stratus into the cage once again. The culmination of what has been building for months. The question still remains at this moment. Who will get the last laugh? Trish bounced off the stage, and now it's Becky's turn. Has this match gone the way you expected? So far, it can go either way. Neither woman able to maintain an advantage for long. These are two elite level competitors, a Hall of Famer and a future Hall of Famer, and Lynch is just going wild, hammering Stratus's face into the cage repeatedly, a dozen times into the cage. Lynch up now for a kick right to Stratus. Up now, climbing to the second rope, dragging Stratus up, slams her back into the cage. Becky now standing on the top rope. Becky with a patented leg drop right across the back of the neck. This could be it. Lynch looking for the win. Hooks the leg, wraps the arm, and Stratus at 2.5 with the shoulder up. Look at that guillotine from the top rope across the back of Trish's neck. Almost 3 inside the cage. But Stratus is not finished yet. Becky up first now. Becky, 6-time women's champion. Look at that welt beginning to form on Trish's head. My goodness, where's Becky going now? Climbing up, dropped down onto the top rope, landed hard on her knee on that top turnbuckle. Trish now. This is... what a move. Becky caught her, though. Becky locking her in. But Trish up, firing away. Both women now. Rights, lefts, back and forth. Both women teeing off on one another on the top turnbuckle. Stratus with the upper hand now, as vicious as we expected. Now Stratus climbing up over Becky Lynch, up on top of the cage, looking to escape. Remember, she's got to climb over. Both feet must hit the floor in order to win the match. Trish has an opening. Trish has daylight. Becky now trying to play defense, trying to intercept Stratus. No. What's she got? Trish does not want to be up there. Trying to fight out of it. Becky, though. Becky What a power bomb! Cover. Is it for the win? Trish at 2 kicks out. Crowd going wild here tonight in Pittsburgh. This is a point in the match as grueling as a steel cage match gets, where doubt begins to creep in the mind of both competitors. Right now, Becky Lynch asks herself, what do I have to do to put Trish down for good? Conversely, look at the forehead of Trish Stratus, starting to look like something out of a horror movie. This is just awesome, awesome chants by the crowd. It's only fitting that that chant would ring out here tonight. Two of the greatest of all time, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, doing battle here in a cage to kick off Payback. Elbows now to Becky Lynch. Becky now coming in behind. Becky face first into that cage. Stratus counters. Now Stratus kick to the midsection. What's she setting her up for? Lifts Becky up. Great power by Stratus here, holding her up. And Widow's Peak. Widow's Peak. Shout out to Victoria. That may do it. Hook of the leg and a kick out. The significance of that move by Trish Stratus. Again, Trish, a student of history. And you look at another Widow's Peak. The first ever WWE Women's Steel Cage match featured Lita and Victoria, who used the Widow's Peak as a finishing maneuver. Trish with a callback here tonight. Unfortunately, it did not produce the same result for Trish Stratus. And impressive and effective as it was. There you go, Becky. Get up. Trish angry over the fact that she didn't pick up the win there. This is what Trish Stratus needs to do. Keep the floodgates open. Don't relent. Trish looking for a little bit of satisfaction. Becky now has her counters. Twist of fate. Paying homage to Lita. Cover. 1. Hook of the leg. Trish kicks out. Desperate times call for desperate measures. In this instance, Becky Lynch forced to reach into someone else's arsenal, that being of the Hall of Famer Lita, delivering the twist of fate to Trish Stratus. 1, 2, but much like the homage to a la Victoria, still not enough to get the job done. But Trish Stratus is in deep, deep trouble. Becky firing herself up here, climbing to the top rope, down, rolls out. Looks like she hurt her knee on that. I believe Becky may have tweaked her knee. Trish with satisfaction, looking for the win. Hook of the leg now on Lynch. 1, 2. She didn't do it. Becky thought she had it. She kicked out at 2.5. It does not get any closer than that without ringing that bell. My goodness, 2 9/10 on this near fall. You see that jump off the rope. You see the tweak of the knee. Trish taking advantage now. Off the ropes into a satisfaction. But again, the man fights on. The crowd chanting, "This is awesome." Trish with a kick to the midsection, once again in control. But can she put Lynch away? The one thing we've learned about Becky Lynch, she's hard-nosed, she's stubborn. Tremendous resilience, tremendous heart. One of the reasons she's won a Royal Rumble, a tag team championship, 6 world titles. Now Trish Stratus trying to escape from the cage again. Becky Lynch again playing defense. Trish almost went over the top, and Becky able to drag her back in here. Trish nearly had that important leg over the top of the cage. Both women now able to maintain steady footing, firing away as they try to balance on the top rope. Now Trish bounced off the cage. Oh no, no. Becky looking for a manhandle slam from way up top. Stratus able to recognize Becky's intentions. And now from the top rope. That's vintage Stratus, a bulldog, but Trish hurt herself as well. But can she capitalize? Into the cover, hook of the leg for the victory in the cage. 1, 2, wow, wow, wow. That was close. Unbelievable. As we look again, as Trish delivered the bulldog from the very top rope. Unfortunately, it appears Stratus may have jammed her tailbone on the landing. Just a slight hesitation allowed Becky enough time to recover, to kick out before the 3 count. Trish now climbing up. What's she doing? She's going to try to get out once again. Trish wants out of this cage in the worst way. Near the top, has one leg over. Becky trying to intercept Trish, not allow her to get down to the floor. Off the top of the cage, using the top of the cage as a weapon now. Both women straddling the top of the cage, battering each other's faces into that cage. Back and forth, rights, lefts, firing off, right after right. Becky now climbing back in, trying to hold on. Stratus has just got to try to lift that other leg over the top. She's got it. She's got it. She's close. Trish is close, but Becky's up. She's got a handful of hair. Becky grabbing her handful of hair, dragging her back into the cage. Remember, no disqualification in the steel cage, so a fistful of hair, perfectly legal. Anything you do to keep your opponent in the cage is legal. Trish Stratus currently on the higher ground as Becky looks to even the odds. Trish just somehow tried. Trish is trapped. Trish is trapped. Her legs are locked in the cage and she's dangling. Both legs are trapped inside the top of that steel cage and Trish is dangling now. Becky Lynch trying to drag Trish back into the cage. Trish may have been able to slip down to win this match if she didn't have her legs caught up in that top of that cage. In this instance, that may have been a blessing in disguise that Trish's leg did get caught because it was a long way down to the floor head first. Trish finally freeing herself from that steel prison. But Becky Lynch has control, has got Trish under her powers, dragging her into the cage. Oh my God, Trish is some 15, 20 feet in the air here. 15, 20 superplex from the top of the cage. My God. It's not the fall that hurts. It's the sudden stop at the end. Both women crashing down. It's tough to tell at this point who got the worst of it. Covered by Lynch. Stratus, again, gets the shoulder up. You see bruises on the arm there of Trish Stratus. Kudos to both of these women. How in the hell are either able to move at this point after this suplex from the top of the cage with Trish coming all the way down? Barely moving now. I think Becky, out of pure instinct, dragged herself into the cover. Now, somehow trying to dig down deep, trying to fight through the pain, trying to knock off Stratus inside the cage. WWE Universe doing their best to provide adrenaline surges to these women, both Lynch and Stratus, out of respect. Becky going out for the climb. It's now Becky's turn to try to climb up over the steel cage and win this match. She's got one leg up. She's got another leg up. Trish now making her way for the door. Becky coming back in to stop her. She realizes what Trish is going to do, and she's going to run interference and drag away. Wait a minute. There's Zoe Stark. There's Zoe Stark trying to pull Trish out of the cage. She's been a thorn in Lynch's side through this whole thing. A tug of war now. Trish Stratus is the rope, and Becky and Zoe pulling. Becky trying to drag Stratus back into the cage. Zoe trying to pull her out. Get her out of here. Come on, ref. What are you doing? Get her out of here. Lynch getting the cage door slammed into her, and Becky rolls her up for the win. Stacked up against her, and she kicks out at 2. Goes for the chick kick. Becky defended. Manhandle slam covered by Lynch. 1, 2. Zoe Stark in, breaks it up. Remember, no disqualification here, but this cage was designed to keep Zoe Stark out. Referee, do your job. It's legal, but get her out of there. Despite the fact the steel cage is taking place because of Zoe, to prevent her from getting involved, now Becky's on her feet, and she just slammed the cage door shut, staring Zoe Stark down. You want it? Come get it. There these women go, battering each other, trading rights and lefts as Trish just watches. Clothesline. Becky's down. Stratus climbing out, looking to escape. Zoe Stark, the obstacle in the way. Manhandle slam now to Stark. Climbing up, dragging Trish back. Lynch making a beeline for the top of the cage, again preventing Stratus from getting over the top now. High above the ring here. Both women. Becky Lynch has Trish where she wants her. Manhandle slam off the top rope. Becky Lynch for the cover. 1, 2, 3 with the win. What a match. Here is your winner, the man, Becky Lynch. This is match of the year right here, and we're getting just started tonight at Payback. What an effort by both women. What a match. Now, Becky Lynch stands alone, can lay claim to supremacy. The man toppled the Hall of Famer inside the cage. Becky walking away, standing tall. After months and months, Becky Lynch finally gets revenge. See now, Becky signing autographs for the little fans. Neither women were afraid of the heights or the risks involved or the brutality of this match. Both women pushed one another, but in the end, there can be only one. And tonight, that is Becky Lynch. An incredible match tonight, folks. Such emotion, such power. But when the cage door finally opens up at Payback, the story feels complete. Becky Lynch walks out with the win, and more importantly, she walks out with closure. This wasn't just another victory on her resume. This was the first time in the entire feud that she got Trish one-on-one. No excuses, no interference, not much Zoe Stark tipping the scales. And you can feel the difference. Becky isn't celebrating like she just won a championship. She's exhaling. That tension, gone. That frustration that had been building for months, released. She's proven what she's been saying all along. When it's fair, when it's just the two of them, she's the better woman. But what really stands out is what happens after the bell. Trish, beaten and with nowhere left to hide, finally shows respect. That moment matters. After months of arrogance, excuses, and manipulation, Trish acknowledges Becky not just as someone who beat her, but as someone who earned her place in the lineage of greats. It's not a long enough speech. It doesn't need to be. The respect says everything the feud had been arguing about. And just like that, the tone shifts. For Becky, this win recenters her. She's no longer chasing validation. She's back to being the man with momentum, credibility, and a definitive victory over a legend. It reinforces her as the standard of the modern era, someone who didn't just benefit from the past, but surpassed it when it was tested. For Trish, this feels like a closing chapter. She came back to prove she still belonged at the top, and while she didn't win the final battle, she proved she could still hang in a major high-stakes match. More importantly, she leaves having passed something on, whether she wanted to admit it at first. And then there's Zoe Stark. Her role in the aftermath is subtle but important. With Trish's run winding down, Zoe is left without that safety net. The question becomes, was she just a tool in Trish's plan, or did the experience elevate her? That's the thread that quietly spins out of this feud. The cage didn't just settle a rivalry, it resolved a debate. Becky Lynch walks out with validation, Trish Stratus walks out with humility and respect restored. And for the first time in months, there are no excuses. After the steel cage loss to Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus basically reached the end of the road for that comeback run. And honestly, it felt intentional. Match wasn't just another appearance for Trish, it was designed as a send-off. In the immediate aftermath, Trish didn't stick around for another feud or to try to rebuild momentum. Instead, she stepped away from weekly programming. There wasn't some dramatic storyline injury or a revenge angle brewing in the background. She just left, which is pretty rare in wrestling. Most exits tease a return. This one felt like closure, and that fits her character arc perfectly. She came back claiming she was still better than the current generation, that she deserved more credit, more spotlight, but By the end of the feud, after being beaten clean inside the cage with no excuses, the argument was settled. There was nothing left to prove in that moment. Staying longer would have actually weakened the story. Now, outside of storyline, Trish has always treated these runs as special attractions, not full-time returns. After Payback, she went back to that role, making occasional appearances, doing media, fan events, and staying connected to WWE without being in the weekly grind. The interesting ripple effect is what her exit meant. By losing the way she did, she didn't just step away, she passed the torch in a very clear way. She elevated Becky Lynch as the definitive star of her era, while also reminding everyone that she can still step into a major spotlight and deliver. So where did Trish go? Not into another storyline, but into that legend space once again, where she can come back anytime, but doesn't need to. Trish Stratus didn't fade out, she chose her ending. One last big statement. One final test against the present. And when it was over, she walked away on her terms. Becky Lynch here is in a unique spot. She's no longer chasing anything, and she's not tied down to that Trish Stratus rivalry anymore. For the first time in a while, she's got freedom, and WWE leans into that by shifting her focus. Instead of jumping straight into another top title program, Becky pivots towards something a little different, proving she's the best overall performer in the division, not just the biggest star. That's where Nia Jax comes back into the picture. Nia returns and immediately targets Becky, bringing up their real-life history. The infamous moment where Becky's nose was broken back in 2018. That history adds a layer of realism and tension, and suddenly, Becky isn't just defending her status, she's confronting unfinished business from years ago. They clash, and Becky gets a measure of revenge, but more importantly, she shows resilience. This time isn't the same Becky from before. She's more experienced, more controlled, and harder to shake. But the biggest shift comes when Becky sets her sight on something she's never held before, the NXT Women's Championship. Now that's a curveball. Becky's been on the main roster for years. Going down to NXT isn't a step down, it's a statement. She challenges Tiffany Stratton, the rising star of NXT, and the story becomes about Becky testing the next generation, not just defending her own. And then she wins. That moment is huge. Becky Lynch, already made a star, already a WrestleMania main eventer, goes to NXT and captures their top women's title. It instantly elevates the brand and reframes Becky's role in WWE. She's not just the man anymore, she's a bridge between eras, similar to what Trish was trying to claim earlier that year. Her NXT run turns into a mix of showcase matches and mentorship. She defends the title against multiple challenges, gives younger talent the spotlight, and proves she's a bridge between eras. And she can adapt to anything. Eventually, she drops the title back, but by then, the mission is accomplished. She comes out the entire stretch with a decisive win over a legend in Trish, revenge and closure with Nia Jax, a championship reign that elevates the next generation. Becky Lynch didn't just move on, she expanded her legacy. She stopped looking backward at Trish Stratus and started shaping what comes next, from proving she was the best to proving she could help define the future. And that's going to do it for this one, Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus inside a cage, a match that wasn't just about winning or losing, but about two eras of women's wrestling colliding in the most unforgiving environment possible. At the end of it all, Becky walks out having proven she belongs in every conversation about greatness today. And Trish, even in defeat, reminds everyone why she was one of the foundations that made this entire evolution possible in the first place. Inside that cage, there's nowhere to hide, and both women left everything in there. That's what makes this one stick. It's not just a match you watch, it's a match you feel. A passing of the torch, wrapped in violence, respect, and legacy. So whether you're Team Becky or Team Trish, one thing's for sure. This one belongs in the conversation when we talk about defining moments in wrestling history. That's it for this watch along. Thanks for hanging with me. I'm Justin Case, and I'll catch you next time. Any questions, comments, concerns, issues you may have, I want to hear from you. Email me at watchalongwithjustincase@gmail.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and mash that subscribe button. I need the followers. Have a good one, everybody.